As planners, our work is to think of possibilities for a place's future based on its present reality and community's vision. In order to do that, a thorough analysis of the existing conditions and public input are necessary. Hence, public participation is important in the planning process, but not just any participation. Meaningful participation is honest and genuine. Meaningful participation is not the formal opportunities for public input where planners invite the public to listen to what the experts came up with. Meaningful participation is to give the public the chance to decide for their own, to allow people to come up with their own ideas and plans for the future and the future of their spaces. It is also about giving the opportunity for a variety of groups to express their interests. As Debbie Duff was able to show, in planning there is not one single interest, but a multiplicity that often clash with each other. Many disciplines prefer to avoid this conflict than to deal with it. When working with other people, it may be hard for a planner to accomplish meaningful participation because different professionals have different goals. For planners, however, public participation is more than a goal. It is a matter of ethics. I'll give you an example of my personal experience. This semester, I worked on the Danville Downtown Riverfront project with other students and professors from planning, architecture, and landscape architecture. This was my chance to be a planner for the first time, but most of all, it was a chance for me to prove to myself that I could be useful to people. I was excited to include historic marginalized communities into planning decisions that directly affect them, to produce something that I felt was worthwhile, to engage the public in defining what was good for them. But things didn't happen as planned. In working with different professionals, my aspirations were faded and my intentions to produce an inclusive project clashed with other people's interests. Public participation and the city's reality were knocked to the side, and the community's interest became secondary. If what I felt was important, I began to think, was not important in the group, how could I collaborate? If our code of ethics says we shall give people the opportunity to have a meaningful impact on the development of plans and programs that may affect them, how could I collaborate if collaboration meant silencing my professional ethical principles and allowing for possible harmful outcomes? As Thomas wrote, it is in the best interest of our profession to include perspectives of race, gender, and classes in our approaches. But as soon as we started working, I realized that some of the other professionals were not engaging in the racialized, impoverished reality of the majority who live in Danville. My first disappointment with this project was in organizing and structuring the charrette. It was obvious that the decisions made regarding who would be invited favored one well-defined group, which was not those who would have the most risk, but rather those who would have the most benefits. As a request from one of the professors, the business owners, or the expert as the professor put it, were invited to participate in the brainstorming session of the charrette. The general public was invited for a later presentation session of much shorter duration. One professor said the public would be given 5 minutes to speak, and after the event, another said that we should be happy for having given the public candy. Candy? Really? This wasn't supposed to be giving people pieces of sweet to satisfy them. It was supposed to be meaningful, a whole meal. The second disappointment came when watching the midterm presentation of the designs. The designs were much more concerned with beauty than the city's reality and the immediate needs of the population. There was a large disregard for the socioeconomic profile of the city and a clear denial of its economic stagnation to the benefits of the drawings. The results of the survey were only superficially considered, and my initial call for attention for the underrepresentation of African American input was fruitless. 30% of the city's population is black, and the proportion in the downtown riverfront area is even greater. Most of that population has also low income status. Their opinions were minimized in the overall results of the survey, and I expected that the designers would take that into perspective, but that didn't happen. This project is already in a thin line between a fair and an oppressive outcome. The concept of revitalization has been historically connected to gentrification and dispossession of the black urban poor, and this project could become another of those stories. But it could also be different, a project that recognizes the conflicting interests but that bring them together in favor of the residents' quality of life. The economic and political forces underneath this project may be just the deciding factor, but planning can trigger either way. The question is, which way do I want to go? In dealing with the ethical dilemma of how to collaborate when collaboration can be harmful, I decided to work on mitigating as much as possible any bad effects while advocating for the city residents. I insisted in showing to the designers that beauty in new development would not be enough. I used the statistical data as evidence to show that they were overlooking important socioeconomic elements. I urged them to consider those who did not participate in the formal activities. Had I collaborated without speaking up for my values, I would have been legitimizing harm. Continue to collaborate while standing up for my ethical principles meant collaborating not only in the process, but also to the work of those who sees it in a different perspective.